How's it going, guys? This is Ryo Murata, photographer based in Tokyo. I was actually cleaning my fridge earlier this day, and I realized that I had a disposable camera from Fujifilm. Actually, this video is not a bit sponsored by Fujifilm or anything, but I picked it up when it was like at a cheap discount price. The disposable camera name is called Utsurundesu. It is an iconic disposable camera made by Fujifilm, which is the arch rival of Kodak's Funsaver. But if you guys know, I never made that much videos on disposable cameras ever since the Kodak's Funsaver, so I thought it would be nice to like shoot with this film camera, disposable camera, because expiry dates was actually quietly approaching. So I wanted to see how it would like deliver in terms of image qualities and stuff like that. No high expectations, I just wanted to shoot with it, but I just thought really hard, where should I shoot with this disposable camera? And you guys probably know Fujifilm is famous for its Fuji greens, while Kodak's famous for its like oranges and blue, not oranges, oranges and reds and yellows. So green typically, as summer approaches, decreases over time. So I thought hard and realized that there was one location that I actually never been to, which is the Yumenoshima Tropical Greenhouse Dome, located in Shinkiba, Tokyo. And FYI, for your information, Shinkiba, Tokyo is actually a transit station for people who are going to Tokyo Disneyland, actually. So if you're going to Tokyo Disneyland, you have to get off from that station and hop onto a different like train to go to Tokyo Disneyland. I'm going a little bit off topic, but this station is, how should I say, a really ironic, or not station, but more like location, is an ironic location, especially in the Tokyo / history, because ever since the Industrial Revolution, as Japan progressed as becoming one of the leading, I guess, economic powerhouses, there was an era where Japan was in shreds after the war. It was like total destruction, and the majority of the trashes that came from the industrialization was actually accumulated in this Yumenoshima area. And this area is really ironic because it was a city of landfills, and you guys probably don't like landfills, but they're like, in terms of like the environmental problems, social unrest and stuff like that, lots of fires going on, the smell was really bad. It was a location that a lot of dictators neglected, unfortunately. And as time progressed in the, I guess, 70s and 80s and 90s, these social like problems started to pop out in the open, and people started to realize that we should really fix this. So the city and I guess the government actually led this sort of like way of sort of like industrializing this area, and sort of like, because it's sort of like an artificial land similar to Toyosu, which I talked about, the what I call the east side of Tokyo is actually like, it used to be ocean, but they kind of made sort of like artificial islands to sort of like increase the surface area to build more like apartments, houses and stuff like that. So instead of doing that, they sort of like renovated it and made a public park, a public sports facility, baseball fields and stuff like that. And along with that, they actually made the Yumenoshima Tropical Greenhouse Dome, which is located in this area. And I actually knew about it, but never had the opportunity to shoot around that area. So I thought, why not just take my day off and just shoot it with a disposable camera. So So yeah, after shooting, this is like the shocker actually. So typically disposable cameras, I do not have any high expectations due to the fact of the constructions and also the fixed lens, fixed shutter speed, and also the lens is plastic and stuff like that. I don't have high expectations, but I have to admit I was actually blown by the images. I'm like, I do not know why, but or it might be the location actually, because I shot indoors, but because it was a tropical dome where the dome itself is like glass or something, so light basically shoots through the glass and there's like light, sort of like light being available even though it's indoors. This Utsurundesu actually performed better than I thought, and I do not know, but it might be the way I've scanned it, because you guys probably do know that I use the plastic optic film scanner, the 8200 AI, which I made a video on, a dedicated film scanners, and probably the majority of the images you see on social media are probably people who basically shoot with a disposable camera, send it out to the lab, and they basically, along with the negatives, they get some kind of like smartphone friendly data of the images, which were scanned at low quality megapixels and I don't know, file sizes that are really sort of like compressed actually. So but in my case, when I actually scan it with the 8200 AI, it's not that compressed, meaning that the sort of like the image quality is much better, the latitude is much better, and I can sort of retrieve a little bit of the not background of the sort of like the shadow areas and the highlights actually, to provide those kinds of results. And I have to admit that the Utsurundesu actually looks really nice, and it's hard to like explain because this is like my first time shooting with it, but this is just my subjective like opinion. But like the infinity type of shots, so if your subject's like really far away, those shots were like meh in my opinion, because I could not get that much of information, like a really sharp image. However, as I looked at the backside of the Utsurundesu, which I read later, that this camera performs really well, especially around in 2-3 meters. If your subject's like 2-3 meters away, you get a sharper image. And as the manufacturer says, it actually provides really rich details, especially around 3 meters. And if you go closer than 3 meters, the image quality goes on the other way. It actually goes out of focus, and I was not able to get good results, unfortunately. But this sort of like 2, 3, or maybe 4 meter, sort of like distance wise, I was able to get really sharp image, and the greens look really spectacular in my opinion. and the contrast is also great in my opinion. And there's like, is this a disposable camera kind of? So it got me wondering, but some of the blunders and some of the shots that were blunders actually kind of made me realize, oh, this is a disposable camera. So yeah, and keep note that this camera is a disposable camera, which means that the settings is already fixed. The shutter speed is like 1/125th of a second, f8 or f11 if I'm right. ISO is probably 100. So because I shot in this sort of like tropical dome, there were areas that were like really dark, but I forgot to use a flash. And that's why some of the images look really muddy in my opinion, but that's, you can't help it because it's a disposable camera. So those are some of the flaws. If you're like shooting it in a really dark environment, you will get a little bit of a mushy type of image, but if you have enough light, it will look really nice. Okay, so last but not least, I have to like mention that the price actually. So Fujifilm's Utsurundesu, because I live in Tokyo, because I live in Japan, the price is much cheaper for on the Fujifilm's offering compared to Kodak's, because Kodak's typically you have to ship it from the States actually. Utsurundesu in Japan costs 1,700 yen, which is $13, while the Kodak's Funsaver costs 2,700 yen. So that's like 20 bucks actually, which is a lot actually. And I think when I purchased that Utsurundesu a couple of years back actually, it was less than 1,000 yen actually, 980 yen or so. So roughly $10 or so. But now the price like doubled over the course of this year as of 2023. And it's kind of like, honestly, if I did have the money, I would want to shoot it with a lot of these sort of like disposable cameras. There are famous like artists that shoot with just disposable cameras, but because that price is like really expensive now, it's like really hard to like pay for that. So I thought just try it once and see how it goes and give you guys the details. But if you're ever in Tokyo or if you're ever in Japan actually, I highly suggest like picking one up because it is cheaper than Kodak's offerings. You will get a different insight of how this like film like disposable camera would look. And also last but not least, I have to mention the size, because although the Funsaver from Kodak and the Utsurundesu from Fujifilm both shoot 27 exposures, the Utsurundesu is much so, it's like so small compared to the Kodak's offering. And you guys know I have small hands, unlike foreigners who have big hands. You guys might have trouble handling with this camera, but for me, this small size is one of the deciding factors when I choose a digital camera, a film camera, because it's easier to transport, it's easier to like bring with you, you can put it in your pocket. So I actually loved the experience of shooting with this camera. So yeah, that's basically it. And hopefully this video is not too long, but you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, if you guys have any questions regarding this sort of like film, like disposable camera, I'm happy to reply. And I've completely forgot to mention that when I scanned it on the Plustek 8200 AI, you can basically choose the film stocks of what like profile to go with, and I chose the Pro 400H profile for all my photos. So that's basically the color that you will get if you use 8200 AI with the Pro 400H profile, which looks amazing in my eyes. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave it in the area below. I'm happy to reply. So yeah, we will see you next time. Peace out.